All right, ladies and gentlemen, Baron here. So we've got some exciting news to go over. First of which, I've been streaming a lot over on twitch.tv/BaronVonGamez. We've been streaming War Thunder. We streamed some custom battles the other day. I've got something really cool to show you coming up. There was some epic moments we had in custom battles, and there was two in particular I thought you guys would really enjoy. I've been streaming War Thunder or Warhammer as well. I'm addicted to that game. In breaks between War Thunder and Warhammer, that's what I do, as I play those games. So, but other than that, I watched a stream the other day by Gaijin where they went over a new map, Novorossiysk, if I pronounce that hopefully somewhat comprehensible, right? But it's a port city. And it's got a lot of water in it. I think like water covers about like a good third of the map at least. So my hope is that amphibious tanks become more viable on them. But that brings up another point. We got to see something. Honestly, this was my biggest takeaway. Not the new map, not even the STRV A-1 with the anti-tank guided missiles, or even seeing anti-tank guided missiles in the IT-1 or the Sheridan or the Raketenjagdpanzer, but it was the LVT A-1. That was the thing that I thought was the coolest. Now, I didn't get too many good screenshots. A lot of the people in the community took some screenshots, so we get to see a little bit, but there's nothing on the devlog about it. It's going to be a reserve tier, and it's going to have a 37mm cannon. There was a couple different LVT designs. I think there was one that had 20mm cannon, but that was like a loose mod. But the two main ones were the LVT A-1 and LVT A-4. LVT A-4 having a 75mm howitzer on it, kind of a Stuart Scott tank turret, open turreted, big 75mm howitzer. One of my favorite units to use in Men of War Assault Squad, the M8 Scott. It had the same turret, same gun. So it kind of, but this one's amphibious, right? But that's not the one we saw. We got to see the LVT A-1, 37mm reserve tier. And what really excites me about that is since it's reserve tier, everyone's going to be able to get it really easily. And then I think this map, Novorossiysk, how did we do it so well the first time? Novorossiysk, should be a fun place to do custom battles with floating tanks and stuff like that. So let's go over the news. We've got a few things to cover. The new map. We've got ATGMs and the STRV-81 to talk about, and a little bit about the LVT A-1, but that's mostly out of the way now. So to the map, the new location, Novorossiysk. We're pleased to present a new location for mixed battles, the port of Novorossiysk. This familiar location of War Thunder pilots has been given a spacious battlefield for ground vehicles. So this must be Kuban? This must be on Kuban. We're pleased to present a new location for mixed battles. In autumn of 1943, Soviet troops broke through the heavily defended Axis line at the port with a daring landing attack under dense artillery fire. This was one of the most successful joint operations of the Army, Air Force, and Navy, and it played a decisive role in freeing the southern USSR from its occupation forces. We invite you to fight for the freight railroad terminal at the port of Novorossiysk. War Thunder pilots are sure to recognize this location from the Kuban and Crimean village missions. Now it's time for tankers to join the fray. I thought so, and I was always hoping it because it's such a really cool port, especially from the sky, heavily urbanized off on the sides, but like fighting over this stuff and like imagining being able to fight over the entire area on Kuban in like a persistent World War mode really, really is enticing to me. So you can see these screenshots. You've got these rail yards, trains, and it looks like even trams are going to be an important feature. Lots of urban environment, very heavy urban environment, and a decent amount of water. So hopefully that lends itself to maps that actually play into amphibious involvement. And I hope they go back and alter some of their maps to make landings for amphibious tanks, because I think that is an interesting way to further increase the depth of play. So Gaijin's artists have done incredible work with archive data, photographs, air photo intelligence data, and historical newsreels. some rather exotic materials were used to produce the location, including a diagram of tramway lines from the early 40s instead of pre-revolution postcards featuring views of Novorossiysk. As a result, we succeeded in recreating the city's harbor, the hero of Novorossiysk and port, the freight railroad terminal, elevator, residential area, and the city park. Of course, we had to slightly alter the precise zone of military conflict so as not to provide a substantial advantage to one team or the other. Tank battles on the Novorossiysk map will take place for the control of strategically important zones in the vicinity of the railroad terminal, city streets, and park. Fighting over a park is interesting and humorous to think about. Players will fight in urban conditions and among bombed-out residential areas and railroad warehouses. At the same time, the map allows for the use of any tactic, from short-range brawls to sniper ambushes. Or to sniping and ambushes, wouldn't you think? The city also contains wide asphalt avenues for the fast breakthroughs, M18 hype, and a multitude of cover among ruined buildings, gullies, craters, and the remains of rail cars. Aircraft must destroy enemy ground targets with bombing runs to support the actions of their tovarishes, their allies. So this map looks great. We'll see how it plays, but visually, like most maps that War Thunder creates, they're very, very interesting. I kind of like how they're going about it, though, because we kind of had, like, in each patch, we've had new types of maps that have been added. I'm hoping this triggers, like, because they usually add 2 maps per patch lately. I'm hoping the other one's also going to have a prevalence of water in it as well. Granted, you know, some people be like, Baron, that's not necessarily needed. We only have 2 amphibious tanks, and you definitely have a valid point there. My hope is that, like, when you see stuff like that, it just kind of points to maybe where the future's going. And I'm obsessed with the water. I'm like half fish. I swam my whole life, and I don't know. Got to live near the water. Got to be in the water. Would like to drive tanks through water. So, you know, there's that. Maybe we're going to get some more amphibious tanks. So that being said, now let's go on to the STRV-81. This is going to be a premium tank, and it's going to come in a gift pack. You're not going to be able to buy it for Golden Eagles in the hangar. Currently, it's got a battle rating of 6.7. It's not 4. It's Tier 4 anti-tank guided missile launcher. It's a Swedish tank. Well, it's the STRV-81 is a Swedish modification of the British Centurion 3. So the patch name of patch 1.59 is going to be called Flaming Arrows. Basically, the highlight item is obviously anti-tank guided missiles. So this is interesting. I'm hoping they have some Swedish skins for it that like come with the purchase of it. You shouldn't have to buy any custom skins after buying this tank. It's going to be pretty interesting, but it's kind of like the Sheridan, and that's got a main gun as well as being able to fire anti-tank guided missiles. This one's got 3, and then I don't think you can fire any more. They've got 3 on these external racks, and we only really got like 1. We got to see it in action. We got to see the Sheridan, the Raketenjagdpanzer, and the IT-1. We got to see them in these little like field brawls where everybody had the same unit. It was pretty interesting. And while the stream was very laggy for those who did watch it, it was interesting to see the missiles, and they didn't always knock out enemy tanks. They missed a lot of times. That was probably from user error, but still. So it didn't seem like that they would be overpowering weapons of war with regards to like War Thunder. So, that is that. But I'd say I think missiles are cool, but everyone keeps pointing, oh, look, everybody's trying to be like Armored Warfare now. But I wonder how many people, like, what's the count in the player base between the 2 games? But that's just random musings right now. But, so we've got the port city of Novorossiysk, ATGMs, the STRV-81, which is a Centurion Mark III. It's got a 20-pounder gun. So, pretty much Centurion Mark III right there. Standard stuff. And then we've got the LVT A-1. And that was probably the vehicle that I'm the most hyped for. As I said earlier, they fought so much in the Pacific. They were just so prevalent, right? Like, you needed them all over the Pacific as it was an island hopping campaign. And it's really cool to see the different variants of them. There's not too many. But amphibious tanks, man. Like, I think it's good because if we're going to get Japanese ground forces, there's a few, and I know I've said this many, many times, there's a few Japanese tanks that are amphibious. And it would be great to have maps that don't necessarily make water and amphibious assaults the focal point, but have that option available, you know, because then like certain parts of the map that you thought were barriers are now open and you can get flanked that way, you know, and you have a tank that, especially for the Japanese tanks, that don't have too much going for them in terms of armor or firepower because they were more or less infantry support, that, you know, now they'd have something that they could do and perform very well at, because from what I understand, the Japanese tanks were pretty dang good as far as amphibious wise. But yep, so that's what's been going on. I'm hoping the dev server comes out soon. When it does, I'll have an announcement on my Twitter. So feel free to follow me there at BaronVonGamez. And what vehicle would you say that you're most hyped for of patch 1.59? Because right now, for me, it's honestly the LVT A-1. That little reserve tier amphibious tank. I think it's going to be... I'm hoping to find a lot of ways to make that fun in custom battles and then even using it in, you know, realistic battles. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for watching. That is your news for the day in War Thunder, and I will see you soon.